If you've ever been challenged by shooting in midday light, and haven't we all been? Well, let's listen to Bob Holmes, multi-award winning National Geographic photographer, who gives us his tips for handling that difficult situation.
This is a place that we'll be going to in Cuba in November. An area, it's a town called Vinales. Vinales is a tobacco growing region, and that's full of a lot of great characters and landscapes. It's one of my favorite parts of Cuba. And this guy he was straight from the grapes of wrath. He was like a
Yeah.
depression era farmer. He looked the part. And they live a very simple life. He had a very simple farm. I met him because I was staying, he had an Airbnb, and I was staying at the Airbnb.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
And
the thing about these photographs is the light. Yeah, the
yes.
first one was just normal light. This, I wanted a portrait of him, and it was midday, bright sun. So I put him with his back to the light and then exposed for his face, and didn't worry too much about the background. And with it, you can see on the post on his right hand side, it's burned out a little bit. Sometimes you can bring that in Lightroom if
Yeah.
you bring down the highlights, but it made it a usable portrait. If we go to the next one, I took him inside. This was the Airbnb. I took him inside in this softer light, and it was okay, but I didn't. It's a little bit too flat. Uh, it wasn't the kind of Vermeer lighting that I normally like. It saved having any harsh highlights burned out. But
Yeah.
eventually, I went to his tobacco shed. These little tobacco leaves on the left, on the right. I mean, right of the
Okay.
photograph,
Yeah.
and the light coming in was absolutely beautiful. And I just got him to stand in this shed, made sure I got catch lights in his eyes. That was important. I
Yeah.
needed to get a little bit of light in each eye. And that to me was the best portrait by far. Again, it's this dark tonality that I personally love. I, I always strive to get that in my photographs, sometimes to my detriment, because very often clients don't like that. They want
Mm.
things bright and airy. But for my personal work, and this was personal work, I love that dark tonality. When you're taking photographs of people, again, if you're taking them for yourself, look beyond the obvious. And the next shot, I think, is one of my all-time favorites.
I love that.
And it is, in a way, it's a portrait of him, but it's a much more imaginative rendition. And again, light in the horse's eye is important, and focus. The horse had to be crisp.
Yeah.
Uh, and also, the next shot as well is, again, a portrait of him, which to me is probably sums him up more than any of the others, because just his whole attitude, sort of shoulders slumped,
Yeah.
stormy sky, walking through the tobacco fields, machete hanging down by his pants. It was just a very much a dust bowl type of image of one of these poor Cuban farmers tending their fields.
I love those clouds. That's just amazing. Yeah.
Bad weather is my favorite.
Hmm.
I love stormy weather, or what we call bad weather. I call it good weather. It's that makes the photograph. Clear blue skies are so boring.
Yeah.
I
Well, it
like,
gives
I,
you a whole another layer and depth that you wouldn't
yeah,
get if
I
it
really
just,
like weather.
yeah.
And
Fun.
I don't know. I haven't said much about composition in any of these, but I don't know. There's really that much to say because it always. I approach them very intuitively. I don't start thinking, "Oh, that would make a nice composition."
Even
But
though you have leading lines with the path and the lines of the tobacco plants and all that.
I hate
Yeah.
rules. I don't use rules much, but this is a classic
Yeah.
rule of thirds. Horizon, almost a third of the way down. He's 2/3 of the way across. The one point is his hat and head against the white part, this white triangle
Yes.
of in the sky. That kind of detail is important.
Very important.
You have to
That's
be
very interesting. Yeah.
you have to be preoccupied with detail. If that had been dark, it wouldn't have worked as well. You have to see the hat. So little things like that are absolutely critical. They're they're very important elements in photography. Uh, look at the edges of the frame. Continually be looking at the edge of the frame. How you organize those elements, of course, is up to you as an individual. We all have our individual style, but the general rule of thumb is that you want to make sure that the photograph you take is what you intended to take. Nothing should be accidental, even if you're shooting intuitively. I always preach that you should get yourself into a state where you can respond to an image without even thinking about it. You pick your camera up and shoot. The camera, in fact, even gets in the way sometimes. You see things and you just want to capture it. It'd be nice. I'm sure there'll come a time when you just capture things by looking at them. I guess Google Glass was the closest we've got to that.
Yeah.
But you want to get to a stage where you can just respond to things, but respond to them with a firm basis of knowledge and practice so that you're shooting with intent. Intention is absolutely critical.
And your timing on this photograph, Bob, you not only did you time it so that you've got him against that white part of the cloud, but you've also got his right foot up in the air. So you're looking at all those things that are
Yeah, those
happening.
little details. It's gesture
Yeah.
with his right foot in. The two things that I always teach people that you need punctuation in a photograph and gesture. If there are people involved, then gesture is really important. It was like the baker with his hand on the dough off the countertop. That little gesture helps make the photograph and gives it some life. His foot off the ground in this shot is that little gesture that gives it a little bit more vitality than him just standing there.
Please subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new shows. Like the video and please share it and leave your comments. I love hearing from you. And remember to get out and capture your own images of life.